Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for part 2 of our special workshop on the Astrobiology Learning Progressions, an educational resource that was developed by members of the astrobiology office community and several of you on this call. We're very excited to jump into today's part 2 of this workshop, which is sort of an implementation and example session. We had our speaker, Dani Leach, tell us in part 1, which was in early June, basically an overview and purpose and how to use the resource. And that meeting is recorded on our YouTube channel, which is also on our website, the Guild website, and I will post that link in a moment. And in this session, and keep in mind, this is actually a 2-hour session. So we have 2 hours of fun planned with breakouts and examples and all kinds of things. Before we jump in, and before I ask Dani to briefly introduce herself to those who weren't here for the first part, let me share my screen, because I think it's useful to give you all sort of a recap of previous Guild opportunities that are sort of ongoing and continuously open, in case you haven't had a chance to join in previous meetings. So let me share that. And okay. And admit folks while I'm sharing. Hillary or Dani, can you see those who are coming in? Let me give you, before I share, let me give you
why don't you do me, because then
you a co-host. Okay, does that work? Do folks see my slides? Great. So
I'm not seeing people who are trying to get
you are
in.
not. Okay, that's okay.
I don't have admin privileges.
Oh, well, I made you a co-host as well as you, Dani. So I'm not sure. Okay, maybe it's host, not a co-host situation. That's okay. Let's just go ahead and get started. So for those of you who've been with us from the start, which is about a year ago or so, let me recap some of the really cool opportunities from the science activation teams, our partner, NASA Science Activation. I often invite teams from that group to come and talk to you and give you opportunities as they are interested in having subject matter experts like you all engage with their groups, engage with their learners, and provide your expertise. So one of our early meetings was the group Earth, the science activation group Earth to Sky, and they basically do place-based, community-based learning. They go out to the field and they do a lot of planetary analog research and Earth science research in the field. They would love webinar presentations. They would love field work. If you do field work, they would love to engage with you on your field work where potentially visitors go, like a national park. So if you're interested in connecting with them, there's the contact information from Genevieve de Messières and Chris White, and I can share that information with you all later as well. We had presentations from the Reach group. They are a group, they are a science activation team that do basically culturally inclusive planetary science engagement. They put on these workshops, culturally inclusive planetary engagement workshops at different locations in the US multiple times a year. I have a list of their 2023 workshops, and you can see how diverse they are from all over. They do these regularly. There's probably one coming up this fall, and the Planetary Reach team has a site, so you can, and stipends are available. So if you are accepted into one of their workshops, you can get travel funding. Those are really great. I've heard from participants. So check them out for more information. In March, we heard from the Infiniscope science activation team, whose PI is Ariel Anbar and deputy PI is Joe Tamer. They presented their work with the Infiniscope project, which is basically an online learning module system where you can interact with them as a scientist, as an educator, as a learner, scientists, you all can be subject matter experts and help them develop their planetary science themed and astrobiology themed lessons. If you want to work with students or receive training or use or make adaptive courses specifically on topics like Mars sample return, they're working on those now. There is oh, you know what? It's not on this slide, but if you'd like to get in touch with Ariel or Joe, I can put you in touch with them, or just let me know if you're interested in any of these opportunities. We heard recently, actually last summer, from the Open Space Science Activation Team. Open Space is a group that develops stellar, exoplanetary, and planetary data sets visually and interactively for outreach purposes. And they're often looking for subject matter experts like yourselves to help them. You can share your expertise. You can learn to pilot their software on your own computer. If you have data that may be visualized through their platform, you can propose your project and work with them. So if you're interested in learning more, please let me know and I can put you in touch with them. Megan Vila is their project coordinator. The SCOPE project, many of you may remember, we've partnered with SCOPE quite a lot. In fact, at for those who were present at Astrobiology Science Conference, AbSciCon in May, we put on an awesome game night co-hosted with the SCOPE team and the fabulous Jessica Swan. They basically are a NASA-funded group that connects subject matter experts with other SciAc teams, meaning with any of the other teams that I just showed you. They provide seed grants. They provide small amounts of funding to connect subject matter experts with other projects within SciAc. So they are a really great team to know about. They have programs where, for example, they can have early career scientists to apply to go to conferences like AGU to apply for some amount of funding, as well as networking and professional development opportunities that connect participants to SciAct programs. I'm not actually sure if they're doing it this AGU or not, but I will find out if anyone wants me to get back to them about that. The TREX team, this is a really great team that basically creates TREX, meaning planetary landscape TREX, using a visualization program. And recently, you may have seen my call for Europa subject matter experts that are sought to work with the TREX team. They develop solar system TREX for a variety of planetary bodies. So they would love to have SMEs connect with them and help them in their content creation and narration. They're doing a Europa one in preparation for the Europa Clipper launch. And they're thinking about an IO trek. So if you're interested in that, if you're a subject matter expert on Europa or IO, let me know. I just sent an email about that last week. And we had a presentation recently from the Exoplanet Watch team, which is a citizen science program that monitors transiting exoplanets. And you can basically help enable NASA science by observing basically transiting exoplanets and helping them refine their transit times. So you can get involved with them. You can get involved with them. There's the QR code and there's their website. And then they had a workshop recently. So that link is inactive, but they're probably going to have another workshop soon. So if you're interested, check out their website. And recently we had the NASA Community College Network, the NCCN, present to our Guild community. The NASA Community College Network basically works with community colleges and provides subject matter experts from the planetary sciences and space sciences to work with community college instructors who may not have a strong background in the subject that they're teaching to community college learners. And this is a great group because community colleges are often underserved, under-resourced, and they would love to work with experts like yourselves in their programs. And in fact, they have even seed grants through the SCOPE program where you can work with them and develop resources or host events for community colleges. So they have monthly webinars. They do a lot of other programs. So if you're interested in helping community college educators, check out the NCCN group. And that's their website. And Simon Steele is the contact for that. And there's his email address. And that's all I had for you in terms of recapping opportunities. And I just wanted to mention, if you have any feedback or any other ideas or things you'd like to see in guild meetings, please get in touch with me. And also, please, I'd love to see you all on Slack. We have a great Slack community. We do weekly SciComm meme Fridays. I know a lot of you are pretty active in those. It's a lot of fun. It's a good way to build community in a virtual setting. So that's why we are on Slack. That is all I want to present, and I don't want to take any more of Dani's time. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And again, if anyone wants to follow up on any of those activities, just feel free to contact me. And I will pass it over to you now, Dani. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Svet. And thank you, everybody, for being here today. It is really so encouraging when I'm hearing all of those, when Svet just took all of those opportunities and stacked them all up, that this is a pretty amazing community. And if I can help support you in the work that you're doing in some way, that's really what we're about. That's really what our goals are for today. And I'm going to hopefully, there we go. So what I wanted to make sure that we just really find that zone of being able to help students and learners of any age be able to understand deeply and correctly the work that you are presenting to them, and through all of the different facets that might be. So just to introduce myself again, my name is Dani Leach. I'm an educator in Marysville, Washington, which is about an hour north of Seattle, and been a part of Blue Marble and Astrobiology Guild for a really long time, and really so honored to be a part of the Astrobiology Learning Progressions development, and then also communicating that to the wider group, which is what I'm doing today. Our workshop, what I really want, as you well know, that we learned about the ALPs in the last session, and what I want to do today is dive in deeper into how those progressions can help make your communication opportunities much more, that the students take it in more deeply, that they understand it correctly, and that using the progressions and practicing today, that it then becomes something that is a go-to resource often for when you are doing future activities as well. And this could be anything, of course, from lessons or workshops that you're giving, social media, making videos, putting out, or just talking to students and learners, making sure that, you just have the resource to help make it as powerful as it can. And to be able to also today to either design or redesign some sort of project, or that you either have worked on in the past and you want to redesign it to different various learning levels, or maybe it's something brand new. So you're going to have time today to do that work here in the workshop. And then I get a chance to come alongside you. And I truly believe, as a teacher of a really long time, that working together in a group rather than only alone can just give us so much more insight and ideas. So the plan is to take a look at one section of the ALPs, really take a look at it with an example, from me and some guidance on what to go and explore. Then spend some time in a small group doing that exploration, talking about things, asking questions, and then we'll come back together as the whole group and share those ideas out. That, in my experience, has been something that brings up more ideas rather than me just giving you information. I really feel that if I just give you, some structure and guidance, that the ideas that are generated, the aha moments that are happening, are things that are going to be far beyond what I can just give. And that's my kind of philosophy on teaching in general. And then you'll have some time to work on your products. And so what I envision there is, when I have been in sessions in a different setting, I may have had these ideas that I wanted to write down, that I wanted to flesh out a little bit, and I didn't have time to work on it. So I had to kind of not look at things for a while, not listen for a little while, so I could get those ideas down. And what wanted to provide is a structure here where you don't have to miss out on any of the sections of the work and discussions that we're having, knowing that you will have some independent time. We'll have it scheduled into the presentation, so you'll be able to focus on that. And so hopefully that just gives you some reassurance on that you have that time available. This is a slide from the last presentation, and we are really just, as developers and communicators of the learning progression, what we're working on today are really these last three, providing that information and context for outreach specialists as yourselves, and making those connections for students who are ready to learn at that level. And this is information that, although you could find it in different places, it's scattered over a lot of area and a lot of time. And so one of the things we want to do with Astrobiology Learning Progressions is give you a bit of time back. You don't have to go and dive into different places. You can hopefully find a lot of information here. And I do think there are dangers that we should consider when thinking about science communication. When students of learners are misunderstanding their takeaways.
Dani, sorry, just to interrupt you. Are we supposed to be seeing slides?
Oh my goodness. How is it not showing slides? So sorry.
No worries. Is that what you were going to say, Hillary? I saw your hand moving. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I hit that. Is this not correct? Is that working for you?
Nope.
Oh, darn. Why would this be different?
You can send them to me if you want. I can also share them on my end, but
Sure.
Totally up to you. Or Hillary can if I MC in the background.
Let me get them up.
Is that there? No? Okay. Oh.
I have them up now.
Do you have them, Hillary? I see your email, Dani, but I would.
Yeah. If you don't mind bringing it up, that would be great.
Hillary, did you say you have them too, or should I pull them up?
I do. I'm just
perfect.
looking for how to share.
I
got it.
Post.
Okay, here's the slide. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can everyone see that okay?
Too many slides.
Can you see
it,
Savannah? Yeah, give me a thumbs up. Okay, good.
Great.
Thank you so much, Hillary. That's very helpful.
Okay.
Well, thanks to Dani for sending the last version this morning.
Oh, okay. Sorry for that, everyone. So if you could move it ahead for me. So being able to, so kind of going back a little bit, we'll go through these fairly quickly. It's really to make sure that you have that time available for you in the workshop, and also a structure and availability of information and people to help generate your ideas. Can you move that forward? So we're going to look at those ALPs, and we're going to go through the cycle a few different times, and we'll have that chance for you to work on your work as well. So if you do have the opportunity now to just maybe, if you have separate screens or if you have a different device, to bring up something that you would be using today to work on, or if you're generating new ideas, that would be, that's also very exciting as well. Yeah, we move that one forward. So the purpose of the ALPs is certainly to help teachers, which I am, but also really to help a lot of scientists be able to do the work with students of various ages and cognitive levels. So we're looking for a way to help students in the different opportunities, like you've heard from Svet today, and the ones that you're working on now and then you have in the future, that you'll be able to come back and use the learning progressions to give you that support to make those opportunities very profound for students. The work that you do with kids and students is very, very important. And it's also those moments where kids really can get very excited and motivated, and that helps with deeper learning. We just all know that. All right, can we move forward on it? So there can be some dangers that, as a teacher, I've seen occur, and this is with science communication. And just to make sure that when we all are giving information to students, that their takeaways are correct. Just because we've said it right and thoughtfully doesn't mean their takeaway is the same. And so we have to be aware of that ahead of time, because when they take something incorrect away, they will hold on to that really tightly. And so when they hold on to an incorrect learning or an incorrect idea so tightly, it's very hard for future teachers to kind of undo what has been done. And so that is a real danger. You know, we might all feel like the day went really well, but we have to be careful that it is really that those takeaways that students are learning are correct. And I have seen many times where that's not always the case. And so we have to be careful of that. One of the things you can do is certainly checking for understanding, and at the end, maybe doing some pre and post tests. All of that will help your practice be better. But in the moment, we need to help those particular kids. And one of the best ways to do that is to make sure that the content and the explanations is at the level that they are prepared for and able to comprehend. And so doing the prep work ahead of time is what we can do here today and then in the future. Also, if the content is too high, there are students who are not comfortable asking questions, especially in kind of what feels like a high energy situation. Not always the case, it's a broad statement. But if it is too high for them, we cannot rely on students to ask the proper question for then us to understand that they're misunderstanding. I've always said that a student who does not understand anything that you're saying and a student that understands everything that you're saying literally look the same. They have that because they don't want to say it. So we have to do our best job at trying to make sure that they don't feel like, wow, this science stuff astrobiology stuff is just, it's too much for me. I'll never be able to learn it, because that can also be one of their takeaways. Okay. And also, like I said, these are learning opportunities that you all are giving are so important. They're incredibly important. And so just giving it the best chance to be able to get the best from that. All right, can we move that forward? So if you don't already have the astrobiology progressions up on a device somewhere, certainly welcome to do that now. I'm not going to have a live version of it. I'm going to have some pictures of the ALPs and access to them. But if you'd like to do that, you can maybe grab that, and thanks, Graham, and put it into the chat. Perfect. Okay, can you move that forward? So as we have learned in the previous opportunity that we had together, the skeleton or the structure of the ALPs is based around 7 questions. And the questions are trying to capture kind of a field or an area of astrobiology, just like astrobiology is just inherently overlaps ideas in different ways. These questions also do overlap at times. So as you are looking through them, if you think you have identified the area that really fits the topic that you're working on, don't forget to also take a look at other sections as well, because of that overlap. You might find that there's even more there for you than what you maybe originally thought. Move that forward. And so here's a list of all of the core learning questions and the sub-questions, just to show that point that we have a variety of different questions as kind of chapter titles or section titles. And for each one of these, we'll have several different sections that will give you lots of information. Okay, can you move that forward? Thank you. So each page of the Astrobiology Learning Progressions has in very small print there, the core learning question, and larger print is the sub-question. And then it will also have the different tabs that are available, which we'll do some exploration on that today. And on the left and the right, there is the grade band changes. So we have 4 grade bands, a K2, a 3.5, a 6.8, and 9.12. And each time that you change that, the information within those tabs across storylines and GSS connections for teachers and so on are going to adjust for each level. And so a lot of our work today will be going back and forth between 2 levels, doing some comparison. That'll be part of what we're working on today. All right, can you move that forward? So here's a first example of taking a look at the section called Concept Boundaries for Scientists. This is from How Did Our Solar System Form? And we have, each section has a big ideas and a boundaries. The big idea is in just a couple of sentences, some of the definitely need to hit these ideas while you're in your science communication opportunity that you're working on. The boundaries are, this is where we are going to find that right level, not too high, not too low. Mainly it focuses on not going too high. I think that's generally our more worrisome area. And so that's where it works on. So this is for the 3-5 band. And then the bottom one is for the 6-8 band. So let's just take a minute to give you to read that. Okay. So in our breakout room in just a minute, what we're going to be doing is spending some time just really talking about what those differences are and then what they imply and how they're important. And so we'll do that next. Can you go ahead and Hillary move that forward? Thank you so much. So the breakout rooms, why we do this is so we can talk together, get more ideas, bounce new ideas off, and generate and get inspired. So the rooms are there so that there are smaller amounts of people to be able to bounce ideas off of, and then we'll come back together as a full group and share out. Gently encourage people to add to the conversation because all things are appreciated. And if you have a question for me, just send it out into the, you can pop back out of the room and then go back in. I will have a timer on that room. So if you do go through the process of the questions and you have some more time, please use it, staying in the room and talking with the other people that are there, maybe about the project that you're working on today, how far are you at, any of the different things that you are working on, and we'll come back together and share it out. Okay, so let's move that one forward. Okay, so here's the plan. Just go through again you actually just did that part. Go through the boundaries for the 1.2, how does our solar system form? And now that we've taken a look a little bit at the 3 and the 5 and the 6, 8, and you can look at the 6, 8, and 9, 12 grade band. So maybe better said, there are going to be differences between each of the grade bands on that same topic. So as a team, in your small group, you can start off with taking a look at the 6, 8 to the 9, 12 band and look back and forth at those and just discuss what differences are you seeing? Because it's those differences that are really important. If you have time, let's go back and take a look at 3, 5 and discuss that as well. Okay. So these are not these, when you're in the Zoom, you may not be able to see these. So I'll also can put those questions into the Zoom or into the breakout room as well. So you can see those and there will be a time that'll be on there too. Okay, so let's, Okay, any questions before going into the breakout room? Okay, I think we have the right number of rooms. Again, I apologize if it's not. So I'm going to have you, do we have, okay, there we go. Okay, here we go.
Dani, do I need to change your admin settings so that you're able to create and send us to the rooms, or?
I think I've done it now. Should be popping up on screens.
Oh, okay.
Do I need to stop sharing? I'll stop sharing. That might help.
Yeah. So looking for a join the Zoom breakout room. I think I set it for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. And then I have a setting where I can join any of the rooms.
Great. Okay. And maybe we can try to get my PowerPoint to pop up.
Okay. I'm here to help you. Svet, do you want to help? Is Uzma in a room? That's the only person who hasn't left.
Let me.
Is that being seen yet? Sorry, I'm asking you to do 2 things at once.
Are you trying the PowerPoint now, Dani?
Yeah, I was.
I just did share screen.
I know.
I don't know any other way to do it. Let's see, share screen, and then I chose. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see.
So it's not there again. Great.
You have it open because that's how I get
Yeah.
to this
And I have
meeting.
display settings. I remember swap presenter view, or is it duplicate slideshow? I thought it was duplicate.
This is-
Shoot, and I thought I was sharing it earlier when we were practicing.
Yeah, I saw it.
You did?
I did.
Okay, then let me refocus.
You're not the host. I wonder if you could log in and out. Is that something she could do? Because it was showing earlier.
Huh. Yeah. Should I make it? Wait, maybe all I have to do is move you from co-host to host. Maybe that'll fix it.
Well,
Oh, wait, it says you're starting screen sharing. I see it.
Yeah.
okay. I don't know why I did
That was
different.
it.
What'd you do?
Sorry.
I changed Dani's permissions from co-host to host, but I thought co-hosts can also share. I don't know.
Am I a co-host?
Yes.
Is it? Can you tell? Is it happening?
It's happening.
Yeah.
Is it on there?
Yeah. Now it's great.
Yeah, we're looking at it. Okay, good. So I'll leave mine up just in case, because then it's on my screen if I go to share, I don't have to open it.
So Uzma, I'm not sure if you saw my message, but it looks like we had you assigned to room 1. So do you need some help getting into that room, or are you not able to, or do you not have that access to that setting maybe? Because I think we can assign you to a room, but I don't know if you have to like click an approve or admit myself button. So what is it recording now that there are different rooms?
Probably just this room.
Let me pause the recording for now.
Thank you for that. So, so as you're taking a look at it, I really want to hear from either you about your ahas or your takeaways, but also just anything that was described and talked about from anyone. So you don't have to have a team spokesperson or anything like that. Just what are some of the differences that you saw between the 6/8 and the 9/12 bands? And our room is pretty small, so if you want to just jump in, that will work. And if it doesn't, we'll change it up.
The 6/8 seems more focused on storytelling and kind of engagement that way through stories. And the 9 to 12 is kind of getting more of a educational vibe in the form of like, not really a lecture, but the content's definitely, I suppose, heavier. We were commenting on the resources. We were talking about that. I like that there are so many different resources and that the website, like it's not, the interface stays clean when you just have that tab. So it's very simple. That's really nice, because if there's too much at once, people are just gonna be like, oh no, oh no, it's way too much. So yeah, that's kind of what I was taking away. The language is different. There's a lot more complex language, more complex concepts in the 9 to 12, and the depth of explanation, of course, is it's greater. It's my tab. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Savannah. Thank you. I agree. I think that you did a couple of things there. You said, overall, what was like your takeaways of how to do that? And I agree, when you were maybe at the younger grades, that you are probably storytelling more. I think that was a really great takeaway. You mentioned different words being used or different ways to describe something. Could you or anybody else kind of note something specific that you saw in that we just happened to look at this one, and was there some discussion around some words or concepts that were described different ways that were more specific as well?
For me, so in the first one, like the definitions are fairly basic. Like I'm looking at like supernova, nebula, and then there are more, I suppose, more advanced terminology in the older texts. So nucleosynthesis, for example. So things that it's kind of building off of the prior level. So it's a good sequential learning resource, I think. It is a sexy word.
One thing that, I mean, you can pick up the grade levels and the definitions and things like that, but when you're talking to an adult audience, I think it's important to realize that they may or may not have had this kind of stuff when they were in school. I never got any of this when I was in school. Here I am working with NASA on planetary protection, and I never took a course in anything like that growing up. And so there's a lot of the adults almost in some ways get addressed at a lower level initially to put things in context. I think that's very important, especially now when you have situations where you see such polarization. So we as scientists tend to think about, okay, the science is what you go by. And obviously there's people who feel differently than that. And so you have to acknowledge that that is the case. Just look at COVID. And so it's very similar to that. And so if you take ET, it's going to be little green men in some people's head, and it's going to be environmental impact statements and should you bring samples back in somebody else's more sophisticated head. It doesn't mean that one group is smarter or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really well said. It's not about being smart. It's about connecting to that concrete information that they previously had and then bring it up to this either a new level, but maybe it's just a new idea. Take what you know and bring it into a new idea. And, our specific choice words and phrasing and storytelling explanations can be really, really helpful in being able to connect that idea to what is that person's current level. And it's not about necessarily moving them forward. It's about really giving proper and correct information in a way that they can grab hold of it now, for right now, just for right now.
To what extent do you include hypothesis testing? Because even the scientists can make, quote, mistakes. They have a hypothesis, and then with the data, they find, oh, gee, that one isn't exactly right. And so here is a situation where, again, I talk about the adult or informal learners, where they may or may not be aware that, oh, that idea has been replaced by a new one from a new mission or something like that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We can't be on top of every facet of the world at all times. So when
Right.
when something does come up that is new to that person, we just have to acknowledge it is new to that person. It is just,
Yeah.
and it may contradict or change or slightly change or whatever that might be, something they've learned in the past. And
Yep.
so, I think acknowledging all of those things ahead of time makes you a better presenter or communicator.
Mhm.
For sure. I think this area for concept boundaries is worth really taking a look at in the area now that maybe that you are working on. Maybe this isn't the topic, but we use it as an example. And so I want to give you in these sessions some time to do this. Really spend either reflection on this and what does this mean to you so that you can bring it out later into the work that you'll be doing in the future, or maybe you have something with you right now. For example, if you have a slide deck that explains your work and it's just your work, it's not tailored to a 3-5 grade band, a 9-12 grade band, or a 6-12, maybe you take that slide deck and you make a copy of it and label that one 6-8. And now you can do the work of making it and bringing it into that 6-8 level. And of course, just like Margaret said, it might be an adult version as well. I tend to use those bands 6-8, 3-5, but it does definitely apply to our adult learners as they're moving forward as well. Just honestly, when I'm presenting to you all, it's a lot to say, but I'm not saying that one is more important than the other. So if you have those slide decks, or if you have a lesson, or you're even planning out something in the future, like a social media or a video or what it might be, think about or decide, that what level you're going to work at. And what I want you to do then is to find it on the ALP. What is the section that you have? Go into that section for the concept boundaries, and then maybe bounce back and forth. If you're looking at a 6-8, certainly want to read 6-8. But in the concept boundaries, you might also want to go back to 3-5 and take a look at the concept boundaries and the big ideas there. And then also to the 9-12, so that you can find, kind of tailor in and sink in to that area that you want. So you're welcome to just stay right here, and I'll let you know. I'll put a timer on in a second once I figure out how much time we have, and a few minutes here just to spend on your own. If you have questions, you're welcome to ask them of us as we're kind of doing this individual time. But also, if you're just quiet and want to turn the mute on so that you can just do your work for a few minutes, let's do that now. The recording on? Awesome.
Now it is. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Savannah.
No worries.
So we're going to take a look now into a different section, which we're going to look at the storylines. So we, mostly Hillary, she brought up this idea originally. When we started working on this, how are we going to describe this section? And we chose this phraseology of kind of storylines. And the thought was, we're not giving science insight. You already have that. So how do we tell the story of this question in a way that is a cognitively appropriate level for that student? So it's not a storyline. Sometimes is defined in other ways, like you're creating a script. And to some extent, we're kind of doing that. We're creating a science script for the right appropriate level. So we kind of think of it as the quote unquote answer to the sub question, but through the lens of that right level that you're trying to address. So certainly you could do a dissertation on how do we explore within the solar system for signs of life, and it would be detailed and correct, but we want to make sure that it is also detailed enough and correct for the level of a fourth grader or a sixth grader or what have you, or a adult learner who is getting interested in this field. So we're going to go over to the tab that is for storylines. And again, we're checking in what grade band or adult learning level that we're at. And here you can see more information, but it's really more of the story. So again, the story of the kind of the answer to this sub-question through the lens of the correct or the age group that you're working with. And so what I want to do here is have you take a look just at what we have in front of us. And this is for the 3-5, and I couldn't get it all on the screen. They tend to be a little bit more to them. But in your breakout group that's coming up, what I want to do is take again a look at this 7.2 storyline, and you can look at the 3-5 to the 6-8 or the 6-8 to the 9-12. Typically they get, as well, it makes sense. They all get more detailed as you go higher up in grades or quantitative level. So first thing is,
we're not seeing your slides.
how is that possible?
Well, Savannah says she can see them.
I'm seeing the storylines 7.2 slide. Is that what I'm saying? Yeah.
Were you seeing it, Margaret? Is that why your hand is up?
No, I was going to ask a question.
Oh.
Sure.
Okay, well, my question is, so obviously, if you must start with the storyline that works with the level you're talking at, but I think that what's missing here is the very fact of you start with what you know, which is start with Earth. How do we look for signs of life on Earth? And we look for them in many ways. We look for present life. We look for past life. We look for evidence of it through something else in the geology or whatever. And so get them to express what they know and say, how would you then look someplace else? And so here we say, okay, for the young kid, you're saying use your senses. Okay, so now you're picking up the other part of their curriculum. Okay, so what are your senses and what kind of instrument uses that kind of sense? Okay, I can't see up on the moon, but if I have a telescope, I can see really well. So the instrument is just a way of using my senses someplace else. And so I tend to do it that way, where I'm starting with what they know and then going forward. And that gives them the sense also that it isn't just looking, it's a teamwork approach. You've got to have everybody looking. And someone's the engineer and someone is the geologist out there in the field, and I can't go up there, so I need a rover or something to dig.
Absolutely.
So that bit about exploring for signs of life, start with what we know here. Yeah,
and that is very sound advice as far as when you're teaching. That is to make sure that it connects to what it is that they can do and what they are used to doing. So, and also, I think this brings up with a really good point that is absolutely correct. And you should always, I think that's a great place to start, is what they know and what's kind of more concrete to them. The storylines don't actually, as I put quotes in there, don't actually answer. They give us a sense of what's being about very specifically the astrobiology science that's going on. It is not a script for you to just use this. This would be hopefully, and certainly there's going to be different ways that you want to approach it. This is to help give you an idea about how to create some examples and so on if you didn't have a place to start. And that is, and what we're going to do next is really do the is really take a look at the storyline as it changes from 3 to 5 to 6 to 8, and just as it's changing to see how the different aspects of it are important, because the differences are important. This is not intended, the Astrobiology Learning Progressions are not intended to be the only thing or somehow constrain you into your examples, but just to give you some ideas or many times our scientists, and maybe not the people in the room, but many times our scientists are just like, this is how I understand it, so this is how I'm going to explain it. And so the hope is that there's more, this will support what you're just saying, which is come into that concrete land, use examples that make sense to them. And but if you're a scientist maybe that had no idea where to go to start off, this might be a place to start on that. And Daniel, you have a question or a thought there? Go for it. You're muted in case. There we go.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I wanted to back up what Margaret said there. And just as a framework for what I'm going to say here, I come from healthcare and look at core biological principles, and I have a background in early childhood development. And so one of the opportunities to bridge disciplines, especially working with early learners, but across a life cycle, is to support the learner that we are an instrument. We do measure. We have perceptions, and our entire physiology, in addition to our languaging, but our being. Because my sense is that that's going to help us bridge between these core cosmological phenomena to our human biology. We are human biology exploring the origins of cosmobiology that arise from within us. We are in part, we are the answer that we're looking for. And so we're reflecting upon ourselves as well as looking out into the universe.
Yeah.
Except, can I add, Daniel, I agree with that completely. But then I say, okay, on Earth, I can say I use my senses and I need instruments to go with it. Look at me. If I'm not talking about just digging in the soil. What if I want to do marine biology and go down under the ocean? I need instruments. I need equipment. I need all sorts of things. And I'll probably find stuff I hadn't thought of before when I go down deep enough. And so you can use that example here on Earth. We can't go every place else. If I want to go down in the ocean, I can't breathe the water.
Well, so there's two parts. So this bridges two core basic science principles. Is what you speak to is the development of tool use, machine use within humans. So understanding here we are as humans and biology, and we also create tools, and these tools help us measure. And so understanding the relationship between the biology of perception and measurement, plus now we have this categories, we are creating tools. Isn't that fascinating? We have both of them, and it's part of our sense of exploring with an external machine or external tool, but also what is the phenomena of how we ask questions and inquire simply using our physiology. And my sense, because I come from arts and humanities, medical healthcare, that if we engage the imagination of our being state plus these external material tools, we get a greater benefit. And adding both of them, especially because that speaks to the creativity and imagination for all learners, especially young children.
Yeah, absolutely. And many of the things that you guys were both saying are right here in the learning progressions, using our senses, smell, enhancing, using tools. How are we going to investigate? So again, you have these ideas are absolutely expansive. Learning progressions are never intended to somehow create one way to teach or one idea to teach, but just to support some science communication so that have a sense, and I think part of what we're doing today is creating that sense already of what I can, what phraseology I could use to really get these ideas across, whether it's in astrobiology or space biology or any of the marine biology, any of these kinds of topics where you're bringing so many of the concepts of physical geology, biology together in a way. And like Margaret said earlier, we didn't necessarily, students and teachers and parents and adults don't generally take astrobiology as a class. And so they're all going to be coming from a level of place where you've had these concepts that are kind of, I feel like you have them, but how do they come together for these interesting questions, and what other cool questions can we come up with? So it's just not intended to, streamline or pigeonhole, but only to support so that these ideas can go even broader and across disciplines. I can imagine that, absolutely, across disciplines. Where's my button there? I'll move this forward. So continuing with the discussion on the storylines, I definitely want you to read those storylines. And scanning through them, you'll get the information. It's not, again, intended that you're memorizing the storyline, but what I want you to focus on is not whether you would add something or not, or take away something or not, but simply, more straightforwardly, what are the differences between the grade band storylines? That's what's more important than how you would present. Those are those creative things that you're going to get to, and you're going to have a variety of them now and in the future. But let's take a look at 6-8 and 9-12 and just really look for the differences. Look for those differences. We already know they have common topic and the common idea, but let's discuss and find those differences. And so in your breakout group, spend maybe a minute or two to read through those, and then start the discussion about, oh, here's the same idea, but it's worded different. Let's talk about those differences, because that's what's going to be, I believe, most important and most helpful. Okay. If you have extra time, check out some other storylines in 7.2. And then during your individual session, you'll have time to go over and take a look at the storylines that are coming maybe more for the ones that you are prepping for right now. Okay. So let me grab that breakout room button. And all right, there we go. Being able to discussion. One of the things I wanted to ask is, why do you think doing this process is important or helpful when you're going to be doing discussions with people or presentations? What are your thoughts on the importance or helpfulness of doing this sort of investigation prior to going to that?
Not disconnected. What are you trying to return here?
And Bradley, I think you're actually on, if that's helpful.
Oh yeah, I'm here. I had to get in. I was just surprised that it punted me from the breakout room.
Right. It does. Yeah, it does. Whatever. When the time's up, that's it. So where's how would this be helpful if you're going to be talking to a bunch of students? Maybe it's a Girl Scout or Boy Scout situation, and they have you coming in for a video session or a Zoom session on a topic that maybe is yours. Why would it be helpful or important for you to do this prep work before starting that session? And let's see, Bradley, do you want to answer that? Put you on the spot, is that okay?
Oh, I was taking a different tack on it together. So your specific question there caught me off guard. So I apologize. So when I got into, I'll just say, when I got into the storylines, it made sense when I was looking at it. I thought it would be more of developing the narrative and developing the grand story of it. But really, it was like a Wikipedia page is how I viewed it, of outlining where we are currently at with these different parts of the teaching. Is that correct? Is that the intent?
I don't quite understand. Tell me more about that.
Oh, so let's say I'm looking at the 7.2, the storyline here, and it's talking about the places that we can go, the different places that we look, Mars, talking about hydrothermal vents. And so it is giving a detailed overview, it seems, in our current efforts and how to do that. And I thought that it would be more of creatively developing the story of the exploration. So right now it reads to me kind of dry and informational, rather than capturing the imagination, which is what I had thought going in looking at the storyline. And so So are we correct that I misinterpreted what the storyline was supposed to be?
Maybe, and part of what we're doing today on this workshop is diving into really what that is, because any of us can jump to the website and go, oh, that's what that is, got it. And we have our own preconceived ideas about what that might be or not be. And
right.
Yeah, it is definitely more dry. It's really that basic understanding of where it came from, where it's going, where it's at. But it's brief, and it's through the lens of the grade band and the place that they're at. Certainly, if you are a grad student, this would not be helpful for you unless you're doing communication work. It doesn't give you enough information really in that way. However, I will also tell you that teachers use the storylines who, again, did not take classes in college about astrobiology, but they have enough here that it's in a small enough portion to digest that and then inform their next steps and their next questions. So if you are working with teachers, educators of some kind, pointing them to the storylines or, the entire ALP, but the storylines and what we'll get to as well as the NGSS standards for teachers can really help with getting them some background information then as a pushing off point, really. So, and Daniel, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Bradley,
yes. I was going to address your specific question that you had asked.
Okay. And then Daniel,
yes, if you're going to like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, or why is it important to have a good grasp of the storyline? And as it's presented here, and as I see it, it's useful because like you as an educator might not know everything. And this doesn't cover everything, but this gives you a broad scope. You can figure out what's most exciting that you want to dive into and how to talk to them. And also during the course of this, a lot of different questions might come up. And so having a broad knowledge of the material that's there can help you to address the questions and point them to the right resources and the right directions to take. So it's really important to help to frame the discussion of the modules that you're going to make.
I like that. Help to frame the discussion. I think that's really helpful. Perfect. Thank you. Daniel, what did you want to say or have a question about?
Yeah, really quick comment and quick question. Yeah, so Dani and Svet, I just really appreciate the detailed thought that's been going into the rigorous structure of the progression. Just really lays out a lot of good progressional themes from an intelligent curriculum flow. And with Bradley's comment there, I think it speaks to the opportunities that are emerging with astrobiology that with the interdisciplinary field, we're still at like early stages of like organizing this. And there's all these interdisciplinary opportunities that are going to be arising over the course of days, weeks, months, and years as this evolves. And so what I believe could be inquired is a parallel track, or maybe it has been done somewhere that I don't be aware of, is asking the questions of why are we doing this? What is the fundamental imagination? What is the core creativity that applies broadly across the meaning of being alive, of being human biology, that then interweaves with, here are the discipline scientific progressions. What is the parallel arts, humanities applications? It could be a completely parallel curriculum to that. I'm curious kind of what people's thoughts are on that, what progress that might be developed on that. Because working in healthcare myself, human biology, the application of human biology is very curious to me.
This is from my exploration in education for a long time. This idea of really taking an interdisciplinary topic, we'll say that, or science, and creating something that helps bridge the gap of bridge this track on how you bring up people within this field in a way that they can connect to. So it's not something that after college, if you want to, you can then start to learn about it, but you can, because I think inherently, like you're saying, we have these really big questions. And the astrobiology progressions is really one of the first things that I've ever seen that really does this for any, we've certainly seen, a physical science curriculum or a biology curriculum. And we're used to this sense because we've all taken those courses. But as far as a set of ideas or science, that is interdisciplinary in nature and setting it out into these sections that are hopefully meaningful and helpful for discussion and information. This is the first time I've ever seen this. I think there's applications beyond what we've done here, or in sense of doing this with a climate science, with marine biology. But then also what you're saying is also there's also, you could do this in a field that's connected, and that it is a really interesting idea that I hope that that people will take on. I think there are things that we could do to promote or change or add on to the astrobiology the progressions, but it also might be that it's just a format that then other people can use with an idea that they have, like what you're saying, Daniel.
Yeah, so if anybody else is doing work in that nature, kind of expanding into the invitation into the arts and humanities, please, I'm curious to explore and collaborate with them.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I think the Astrobiology Guild that we have that opportunity to work together and bring these ideas out. I know there's some interest in maybe even taking the storylines and or the ALPs and having a mirrored set in the terms of having it in Spanish so that it's more accessible to others. And I think accessibility is another thing that we can do this as well. So this is where we're at right now, but I love the ideas and the passion around it because, it can go anywhere with it. Absolutely. So let me, Celia, for sure. So what I want you to do is just have a little bit of reflection time. If you would like on your own, making notes to yourself, these ideas that are coming in, we don't want to forget them. So make your notes of that. And also if you have your opportunity that you've been working on during our time, this would be the time to work on that as well. Again, we'll just have a kind of a silent time where I'll put in for about 5 to 6 minutes, and I'll let you know when we are done with that time and we'll reconvene. All right, so individual work and reflect time starting now. Said for the 2 hours is a lot. I hope that you're also, using that individual time. I know that I've finished some wonderful conferences or situations and then all of a sudden went, what did I say that one time? And having some time to reflect or work on the things as it's happening. I hope that allows you to leave with something tangible as well, not only just practicing. So the last section, other than, and we won't spend a lot of time on resources, but the resources are there. Resources is maybe something if you were going to be using that for a lesson in classroom or with other educators. There's a variety of other things that are there as well. And it's a set of resources that are available. And I was able to take a look at each guideline or each sub-learning question and try to attach them to something that could be used within that scope. The other part you might share that with teachers or other educators. The other part is to take a look now, though, is this NGSS Connections for Teachers. Now, of course, just because it says for teachers doesn't mean that we can't learn from it. And I think at times, as we look at the work that we've done, we could be taking things out of our slide decks or lesson as we realize, wow, I really can't dive into that topic. Nucleosynthesis is too high for a fourth grader. I need to revamp that. Might be taking things out. In this vein, you might be adding some things in. It may be very helpful for you to know that within the grade band, these are the topics in science. This is called let me back up a second. The NGSS is a set of standards that most but not all states have used as teachers figure out how they're going to make sure that students reach certain benchmarks as they're moving through their class. And since we are using a grade band, we're saying in this case that students in grades 9 through 12 at some point should be hitting all of these different DCI or disciplinary core ideas. Although some states don't have the NGSS as their set of standards, many cases the standards are very similar, whether they're using this one specifically or not. So the topics are still going to be very helpful. So what we might find in here is that there are things that they need to be learning brand new, and also because we're talking about astrobiology, we're likely talking about the same concept, but in a different format. And when we do that as learners, we take a concept from one thing and then we're applying it to a new situation. That really helps our lifelong learning of that concept. So to find out that students in 9 through 12 are not only learning about what does life need for survival in the terms of astrobiology, we're also finding out, okay, they're learning about ecosystems, photosynthesis, cellular respiration. So not only are these great to use in your talk at this level on the subject, but also be very helpful because they are getting that information in a new context. I did this many times in my astrobiology class. They learned about photosynthesis in their biology class, and I had high school students in astrobiology class, and I had them apply it to a scenario of a planetary body further away from the sun, and all of a sudden it really pushed them to think about photosynthesis in a new and different way. So I believe that is very helpful. So as you look through, what I'd like you to do is either this one, but let's just say you can pick any of the astrobiology learning progressions that you'd like to, and click on maybe the one that you've been working on, and click on the NGSS standards for teachers, and consider that you can add in any of these ideas and topics to reinforce what they are learning at that grade band. And so let me just give you a minute to kind of get to that spot. So you'll see that there are two categories of ideas in the NGSS connections for teachers. One is DCIs, which are disciplinary core ideas. They'll be very familiar, but it'll be very helpful, I think, to you to review that so that you can expand on those ideas as you are talking about your topic as well. There's also a section about, typically, not always, but on most of these, which are cross-cutting connections. So taking a look at those can be very helpful as well. The cross-cutting relationships, as teachers, we're trying to hit that multiple times. It's not that you learn it one time in one grade, but in a grade band, you're going to want to try to hit those things many, many times. Within these disciplinary core ideas and cross-cutting relationships, you're going to see life science, physical science, earth and space science, and also engineering, which is also in the NGSS. And typically that's the case in the standards, which we have a lot of applications that we could use that in the work that you guys are all doing. So if, again, you're working with teachers, that would also be a really good place to look. They are absolutely slammed for time. And so if we can help teachers find lessons, information, and knowing what topics, what standards could be hit by that, whether it's in lesson or whatever, can be very helpful on the amount of time that they have to do the work that they're doing. So instead of, so let me just give you a couple minutes to look through yours and the section that you'd like to, and then we'll come together and share out some of the different ideas that you have been working on. So let me just give you 2 minutes of thought time, 2 to 3 minutes of thought time, and then we will reconvene.
And then have you, there you go.
Great.
Start
So, yeah, so what I'd like to do is have us share out the opportunities that you've been working on or that are going to be that you're working on. And I'll just share one that Mike Tillian had mentioned to me a while ago, and how he used the astrobiology learning progressions in a different way than I've just presented it. So I think that there's so much room for creativity, which is what I keep hearing from from all of you as well about different directions that can be taken. What he was saying, and I took some notes on what he did because it was really cool. He had undergrads who are interested in SciComm, but not familiar with astrobiology. And they were on board the JODIS. And he said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to come up with a video, so a script for a video on one of these concepts, and make it a 60-second video. And then, so what they were, I don't know if they got to choose or whatever, but they could use any of the Astrobiology Learning Progressions. And what he said is that it made it easy to look at the different levels of info and glean what's most important and what's simplest language to use to get the point across. So I love that. And he was very successful that his students were able to use the progressions, the storylines, and so on, so that they could understand how to wrap around this new concept, and then also use it as a SciComm communication activity as well. So, I mean, I think the like you were saying, Savannah, about how it's simple set up or it's clean, it also, I think, hopefully gives us a lot of opportunities to be creative as well, and not at all slow you down, but instead expand the ideas. So I'm just curious if you guys would like to share out some of the things that you are looking forward to doing or are working on right now or are redoing with this stuff in mind. Celia, do you want to start?
I'm happy to go ahead. Yeah, sure. I'm working. It's still like very early phases, but I'm working with the SciAC team to design learning experiences for mostly like for Hispanic families, like the idea of bilingual learning experiences. So related to that, I get like one of the things that came up in one of my breakout rooms with Margaret and Bradley. No, Margaret and Graham were in the room, and it was the idea of, I think, related to this concept that I like a lot, the big ideas and the boundaries for each of the lessons, and how I would love to see something similar to that, but maybe related to like misconceptions or misinformations. And I think because working with adults, in general, I think like kids, depending on the age, they might not have that baggage, but adults tend to have like a good number of misconceptions and misinformation that they get on like either media or science fiction or whatnot. So I would love to see what are some of the common targets, especially like on what is life, how does life start? I don't know, every time I've done like astrobiology outreach, it always comes up panspermia, right? Like everybody believes that we are all super set on the idea that panspermia is how everything happened, and it seems like a bunch of adults believe that that's the way. So I would love to see some of those for this lesson, like kind of which misconception or which, I guess, preconceived ideas these lessons might help clarify. And the other two things that I was thinking, since I have the microphone, I'm going to keep going. There are two things that I had in mind that I would also love to see. And I know this is just like a lot, but I think it came on the comments, the idea of a glossary. And I would love a glossary because I think, sure, you can also have like an advanced learner, but somebody that has learned a lot of like, I don't know, history of art might not know what a planet is. And he's an advanced learner. He's just not an astrobiology advanced learner. So I don't know, like the idea of a glossary, I think it would be great to just like help like introduce these terms. Because I guess like kids, sure, if you're like a teacher and you're teaching like whatever, you might introduce those terms anyway. But for those of us doing like informal education outreach and whatnot, it would be great to have a resource for like nice ways to define, like we were talking earlier, what's an electron or what's a planet or whatever, nucleosynthesis. I know it came too. And the other thing that I think it would be great also, as like, since my project is on like informal outreach, like family hands-on activities and whatnot, it would be the idea of visuals. I would love if this was related to a curated list of resources for visuals, for images, like we're talking about the solar system, like which images we can use to illustrate some of these concepts or to show these things. So, yeah.
Thank you. That's great. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dani. That was awesome.
Wonderful. Savannah,
I am just looking at section 5.2 and the K to 2 and 3 to 5. So I see it says no appropriate content for this grade level. But if I look at 6 to 8, I think it would be fairly easy to simplify this. I know my youngest child is in grade 2 right now, but in like last year in grade 1, my dog is photo bombing here, video bombing. But yeah, I know he did ask this question about like, where do cells come from? How did they like start on Earth? And so I think there is content that can be here. I do think there are appropriate, like simple things that can be said, sort of like talking about very simple one-celled life and then multicellular life like us. I think maybe some content could be there. I know this has come up, like I said, so maybe it's not just something for older learners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's always that, we have a child of a scientist. They're going to be brought up these contexts, and you'll do it in a conceptual way that they're ready for them. But the typical standard, we'll say this, the standards is that single-celled things are not even brought up until 6th through 8th grade. Does that mean it's inappropriate to bring it up before that? Not necessarily. If you have the context, you have the understanding. But what's going on in the learning progression is that competition of resources and evolving, where you have to there's some parts that probably we could do, but that's where but we could definitely, we're always open to looking at it in a different way. And maybe that's what we need is a different way to look at it. Maybe we're looking at it more like that.
Maybe if it's even just like a sentence, like all living things are made up of tiny parts called cells, like super simple, kind of like, I don't know, some things have one cell, some things have many cells. And then it's kind of like two sentences, but you're right that I suppose the child of a scientist is going to have more exposure. So yeah, it would have to be very simple. But yeah.
But I do appreciate that. I think that's worth definitely looking at. Appreciate it. And Daniel, did you want to add some of the things that you're working on right now?
Yeah, with that, in a child developmental stage, there's examples of high genius state children, where these children, they're like 4 years old, and they are naturally expressing fundamental properties of biology. And so as a learning tactic to invite children to inquire, because in the long, the deep time progression from cosmochemistry to protocells to evolutionary biology, we have that information inside us. Okay? So from the arc of history, we can look outside and measure outside and develop tools to extend outside. And across all cultures, there are principles and practices of how we inquire internally as adults. And one tactic is to help children learn how to inquire within inner space, okay, in conjunction with the cultural frameworks of measuring and the philosophy of measuring outside ourselves. So this is where potentially you get these genius state children, especially maybe children of scientists or children of artists, or a scientist and an artist's spouse, that there's this natural intelligence coming from within, and how we invite that. It's like a super learning opportunity. I think astrobiology gives a really good framework and foundation to cultivate that super learning potential for children and adult learners of all potential.
Absolutely. And then as the teacher, whether that student has special needs, whether that means that they are maybe cognitively not ready for this, even though their age is in a certain grade, or the opposite is true. this doesn't specifically indicate all of those, but as professionals, we can help, support students wherever they're at. I appreciate that. Christian, and then it looks like we're almost at time to be done. So please share with us.
Yeah, only a quick word. I'd like to compliment you, Dani. This is amazing. This is really amazing. If I had this when I was in high school, I would approach to astrobiology definitely before now. And as I'm an extreme environment biology student in a master's degree, I really love your background about hydrothermal vents. I really love this. This is amazing. And only a quick word because I was reading about section 6 because it's my topic more. And only a suggestion. I really like when you wrote life exists in every place on Earth. This is really true. The only place maybe where we cannot find life is inside volcanoes. So life is everywhere. It's more difficult to don't find life than finding life. Only a little suggestion when you are talking about extremophiles. I think it's could be more helpful to say that extremophiles loves to live in extreme environment. They not only can survive in extreme environment because this can give more realistic view of what is extremophile, because extremophiles really love extreme environments. This means extremophiles. Otherwise, will be extremotolerant. This is only a suggestion because, when a kid imagine an extremophile, if they imagine that organisms can survive, maybe they can imagine that this organism is not very happy to live there. Instead, extremophiles really love to live there. They love the high temperatures, the high pressure, and so only this suggestion. But I really like, I love this work. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. And on that topic, I might check with the program and see if we can open up some feedback, some way of getting feedback from you all, and maybe doing some another round of subject matter expert editing or something like that of this resource. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but I love that idea. So thank you for that suggestion, Christian.
And thank you, for all of the team that helped develop this. Certainly not my own thing. This is Hillary and Daniela Scalise and Graham Lau and Michelle Hooks and several others as well. So really appreciate the positive feedback and also the information that you guys are sending out, about how to improve it, make it better, because I think it is important that this evolves with the science as we move forward, and getting that feedback is super helpful. So thanks so much to Astrobiology Guild for letting me present here this week and also in June. It's really been a pretty amazing experience.